the type of burnout we try to cure with constant, content consumption. We seek fast and easy solutions, using the certainty of others to relieve our own anxieties. But we can't save ourselves with more borrowing. We have to start building something new, something that feels truer to ourselves. What's Bowen theory? To be a human is to live with the reality of those two essential, often competing forces: the drives to connect with others and to direct ourselves as individuals. It's the wonderful dance of being a person. We cannot be true to ourselves by going it alone or by always going with the group. We need one another, and we need a self. The trouble is, we don't have much of either these days. We're more disconnected than ever, having less time for family, friends, and our communities. And we live in an anxious world, uncertain of what's real on the internet, what's next in the parade of global crises, or what's really needed from us to solve these big problems. No wonder we're so quick to grab on to the latest guru. Why we settle our fears with self-help content that has little self in it at all. We borrow answers, beliefs, and values that feel good enough because we're too exhausted to know our own minds. Perhaps rather than answers, we need better questions, a different way of thinking about human behavior. As a therapist, I use a theory known as Bowen Family Systems Theory, or Bowen Theory for short. Murray Bowen was an American psychiatrist and researcher who wanted to understand how some families coped better with challenges than others. Why did some families put more pressure on one another to be a certain way, while others allowed family members to function a little more as individuals? In the 1950s, Bowen led a historic study at the National Institute of Mental Health, NIMH, that involved housing entire families on a research ward to observe their relationships. Using these observations, Bowen developed a theory of human behavior to explain how some people end up with more emotional maturity, a variable he called differentiation of self, than others. Many of Bowen's psychoanalytic predecessors had treated humans as special, almost mystical creatures, but Bowen saw humans as products of evolution. He believed that human behavior was heavily influenced by the processes that governed the natural world, that families were natural systems trying their best to survive and thrive. Therefore, we can learn something about ourselves by studying other systems, whether it's a troop of chimpanzees, a colony of ants, or a forest of trees. Bowen observed what could happen when a person began to look at their relationship systems as natural systems, to see behavioral patterns as adaptive rather than dysfunctional. People began to gain a kind of emotional objectivity about how the family functioned. They stopped blaming people and became more curious about relationship patterns, and they started to change their part in these patterns. In other words, they were able to become more of a self in the system. They weren't doomed to forever repeat the multi-generational patterns in their families. Bowen worked with people who wanted to increase their level of maturity in adulthood, people who wanted to be more responsible for themselves and less caught up in automatic, reactive patterns of the group. He developed a training program to help people apply this thinking to their lives and work. I have had the privilege of studying and teaching in one of these programs years after Bowen's death. There are some significant differences between psychotherapy using a system-focused lens, used in Bowen theory, and psychotherapy that takes an individual focus. To start, Bowen theorized that growth didn't happen primarily through the therapeutic relationship, clinician and client, but through learning to represent ourselves in our most challenging relationships. He thought that problems created by relationship systems could be fixed within those relationship systems. Growing up is a process of differentiating oneself in important relationships by defining your own thinking and holding on to it in an anxious system. By building a more solid self, a person learns to direct their life more by their beliefs and principles, and less by the patterns a system activates to keep things calm. Patterns like distancing, constant fighting, overfunctioning and underfunctioning, or anxiously